Welcome to this beautiful present moment. Robin Singler here. I'm going to take my glasses off, get that glare out of the way. I just feel wonderful today. I'm so grateful to the Spirit, to the inner teacher who is helping me so much take a look at my mind and help me reinterpret what's really going on here. As a practitioner of A Course in Miracles and a student of the workbook lessons, lesson 79 is my lesson today. And my task is to do this lesson to the best of my ability and to let Spirit interpret it for me rather than trying to analyze this information and suss it out on an intellectual level. When I first started this course and started doing the lessons and reading the text, it was very surface level intellectual, but I needed to go through that. It was hopeful. It helped me find some hope that somehow I could find my way out of the depression, the despair, the loneliness, etc., the human condition. Yeah. So as this journey goes deeper and deeper, and certainly over the last week, a ton of unworthiness has come up, just really deep guilt and unworthiness, and has come up for me to look at and experience and release. Spirit is just so helpful. Jesus tells us in the Course that we always have help. We always have our inner teacher, our inner guide. And this inner teacher or guide goes by many, many different terms. So whatever feels good for you. I'm just going to say spirit or inner teacher. But this could be, universal wisdom. Could have any name that you feel comfortable with. Just to be clear, we're talking about the same thing. No matter if it's a religious term or a new agey term or an ancient mystical term from Eastern philosophy, we're all talking about the same thing. It's the same thing. We're talking about inner guidance. We're talking about intuition. And this is a part of ourselves that everyone has. Every being has this, and every being has access to this assistance, this support and help. And you could say A Course in Miracles is focused on getting me in touch with that inner voice so that I don't need the book. And I don't need to keep reading the same thing over and over again. I can just go within and get answers to what's going on right in front of me at all times. So feeling and hearing the Spirit's help today with this workbook lesson I'm on is just so inspiring, and I feel inspired to share it with you. So here we go. Today's lesson for me is lesson 79. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. This lesson is truly amazing, as they all are, in how the author of the Course, that being Jesus, so clearly and cleanly explains the human condition. It's really how I knew that this course was for me. I opened it up and started reading things that I thought were a secret to me. I didn't know somebody would know that about my mind, how screwed up it is and what a mess it is, and how loud it is and how conflicting it is, and so on. And this lesson does not disappoint. So I'm just going to kind of pick through here and share the guidance that came in with me as I did my lesson today. A problem cannot be solved if you do not know what it is. That sounds fair enough. Even if it is really solved already, you will still have the problem because you will not recognize that it has been solved. The problem of separation, which is really the only problem, has already been solved. Yet the solution is not recognized because the problem is not recognized. Okay. Well, already we're being told what the answer is, what the solution is. And we're being told what the problem is. The problem of separation, which is really the only problem. You see, the lesson is not called "Let me recognize the problems so they can be solved." One problem. So there must be just one solution. Isn't that great? Oh my gosh, that's great. Yet the solution is not recognized because the problem is not recognized. Okay, so I'm not recognizing my problem. I think I have many, many problems, and they all call for a different sort of answer or solution or a way to figure it out. Everyone in this world seems to have his own special problems. Yet they are all the same and must be recognized as one if the one solution that solves them all is to be accepted. Who can see that a problem has been solved if he thinks the problem is something else? Even if he has been given the answer, he cannot see its relevance. Okay, well that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? If I think the problem is my plumbing and I go to fix the lights, this just doesn't work. If I think the problem is something completely different, I'm going to be looking in the totally wrong direction. And that's what we do, isn't it? That's what we do. Looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for the answer where it can't be found because we are completely deluded about what the problem is. Well, let's see what we can do about that. That is the position in which you find yourself now. You have the answer, but you are still uncertain about what the problem is. A long series of different problems seems to confront you, and as one is settled, the next one and the next arise. There seems to be no end to them. There is no time in which you feel completely free of problems and at peace. Now, isn't that a clear, concise way to describe the human condition and what we all go through? One pops up, you kind of address it in some way, or you avoid it, or you do whatever you need to do to feel like you're in survivor mode. We're in survival mode. We're in coping mode. One pops up, you smash that down or forget it or deal with it in some way, and the next one pop up, or maybe if several pop up at once. That's kind of what I experienced. There seems to be like an avalanche of seeming problems that I need to deal with at one time, and it can be quite overwhelming. And I get easily swept up in the nature of the form of the problem, and I forget that there is just one problem, that there aren't several problems. I forget. So I'm very glad to be reminded today. The temptation to regard problems as many is the temptation to keep the problem of separation unsolved. So again, the problem is separation. The problem is not my body hurts, I don't have any money, blah, 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 blah. The problem is separation. It's very different feel to it. Sounds a lot bigger. Has a completely different feel to it. Has a completely different context to it. It's not about the world. Or is it? The temptation to regard problems as many is the temptation to keep the problem of separation unsolved. Okay, that's an interesting statement. The temptation to regard problems as many is the temptation to keep the problem of separation unsolved. So the real problem of separation is going to remain unsolved when I fall for this temptation to regard my problems as being many, from many different sources, many different reasons. That seems like a primary deflection device I'm doing there. I'm doing a little doing a little masking there. I'm doing a little pretending, a little delusional to think that I have many problems. So focusing on many problems and that belief is actually preventing me from having the real problem of separation solved. Oh dear. The world seems to present you with a vast number of problems, each requiring a different answer. Oh my gosh, we've all been there. This perception places you in a position in which your problem solving must be inadequate and failure is inevitable. Been there too, huh? Again, you try to fix it. You implement a fix in whatever way, that form that takes. Could be a hurt tooth, an upset stomach, a relationship falling apart, a death. And you do what you can, you remedied it, and it's inadequate. It doesn't work. It doesn't solve the problem. You still feel pained, guilty, upset, unsatisfied. The problem doesn't really go away. And then there's this belief of failure that comes up. Oh no, that's yet another thing I haven't been able to deal with. There must be something wrong with me. I must be unvaluable. I must be unworthy. No. No one could solve all the problems the world appears to hold. They seem to be on so many levels, in such varying forms, and with such varied content, that they confront you with an impossible situation. Dismay and depression are inevitable as you regard them. Some spring up unexpectedly, just as you think you have resolved the previous ones. Others remain unsolved under a cloud of denial and rise to haunt you from time to time, only to be hidden again, but still unresolved. So there's that pop go the weasel thing. It's like an infection in the mind. It's not quite healed over, so every so often it's gonna explode, and then it goes back under the surface, and you think, oh cool, it's gone. Finally, it went away. A month later, week later, a moment later, an hour later, pops up again. Just as painful it was the last time when you thought, you were hoping at least, that you solved it. All this complexity is but a desperate attempt not to recognize the problem, and therefore not to let it be resolved. If you could recognize that your only problem is separation, no matter what form it takes, you could accept the answer because you would see its relevance. Perceiving the underlying constancy in all the problems that seem to confront you, you would understand that you have the means to solve them all. And you would use the means because you recognize the problem. So that first line in this paragraph, all this complexity is but a desperate attempt not to recognize the problem, and therefore not to let it be resolved. This is a key in the guidance that came in today. Complexity equals the ego. Analysis equals the ego. What is the ego? The ego is the false self-identity that I think I am. When I call myself Robin, when I say I'm Robin, and so I'm her behavior, I'm her thoughts, her story is mine, etc. The ego is the false self masquerading as the true self. The true self is within the mind of God. It is the spirit. It is the inner guide. That is our true nature talking to us. It is who I really am advising me. And that voice, that guidance is very straightforward. It is very concise, to the point. It doesn't beat around the bush. It has no ego, no pride to defend or to inflate. It has nothing but love and nothing but truth in its awareness. That's all it is. It's all I am. It's all you are. So whatever little thoughts are telling you you're something different, we can lay those aside and get to the point here so that we can accept the solution to the one problem. Isn't that wonderful? thousands of problems. They're all out there. Oh my God, what am I going to do about all this stuff? Down into just one. Just one. Just one problem. We're going to simplify this process. We're going to make it nice and easy. Jesus is telling us what this is all about, what's going on beneath the surface here of all this complex shit. All these webs and tangled up weird stuff. Be assured that anytime complexity comes into your awareness and this web of connectivity that is strained and stressed and problematic is of the ego. That is not who you are. And it is trying to cover the solution so that you don't find it. Complexity is of the ego. Complexity is of the false nature that we are being asked to let go of. It's what we need to let go of, not retain. It's the opposite of what we've been trained. I am trained to be a problem solver. What's a problem solver? A problem solver is somebody who's smart. A problem solver is somebody who knows things. Oh my God. The belief that I know something kills my chance of being peaceful. It wipes it out. It wipes it out completely. I don't know anything about what I'm looking at. And the more complexity, the more analysis, the more anything that tries to pull apart a situation and tease it apart and analyze it and cut it up into smaller pieces, that's all the ego. Spirit has no need for any of that mind activity. None whatsoever. None of those thoughts are helpful. Those thoughts are meaningless. Now the ego doesn't like that because it has to protect itself. Well, too bad. We're here to undo the ego. So we're going to continue on and listen to some wisdom here. All this complexity, the whole thing, without having to figure it out, without having to write it down, without having to remember it, without having to call somebody and tell them about it, it can just be laid aside because Jesus is giving us the answer here. It's very simple. One problem. And perceiving the underlying constancy in all the problems that seem to confront you, you would understand that you have the means to solve them all. This is where the hope comes in. This is where the mind can be freed and start to lighten. Oh, wow. Really, I don't have to figure out all the problems I have in my life? All the things out there in the world, the political blah blah, and the war and the famine and the this and that, and the wow, my body's going through some stuff, or my relationships seem to be falling apart, or there's something going on with my kids or my pets. I don't need to figure all that out. There's another way to look at all this. Yes. And then Jesus talks about the practice period in order to facilitate this process of perceiving one problem and one solution. We will begin in our longer practice periods today. We will ask what the problem is and what the answer is. We will not assume we already know. This is key to the guidance that came in today for me. Do not think you know. You've been practicing this course for a long time now. I'm talking to myself. Of course, I'm always talking to myself. I'm talking to myself right now to my laptop. And then I'm going to post this on Facebook, on YouTube, to myself. I love that. So it's great. I'm never under threat of being judged by anything outside of me. It's always just me. It's always for me. Thank you. So, his instruction here about this practice, we will not assume that we already know. We will try to free our minds of all the many kinds of problems we think we have. We will try to realize that we have only one problem, which we have failed to recognize. We will ask what it is and wait for the answer, and we will be told. Then we will ask for the solution to the problem, and we will be told. So, I'm this little Course in Miracles special little person, right? This is who, part of my false identity. My name's Robin. I'm Rev Robin Bird Singler, right? I'm a minister at Pathways of Light. I've been studying this teaching for quite a while, in earnest for probably about 7 years, although it's been in my life for 20. Yada, yada, yada. I've read all this. I've done this workbook how many times? Blah, blah, blah. I still don't know anything. It means nothing. Any of my intellectual understanding has been just a stepping stone. It's been useful, but it has not solved the problem. So this is where some humility comes in. I really needed to step back when I did this practice this morning and realize, okay, well, if I'm still practicing this and I still come up against my unworthiness that is coming up quite a bit lately, and I'm still in need of help, then I need to step back and really start this off from the beginning as if I just opened this teaching. I need to let all my past learning go, even of this course, even of Buddhism, of anything else I've ever studied. I need to let it all go because I'm still clueless and I'm still lost in my problems. So this longer practice period this morning was really beautiful for me because I was, humble enough, I guess, today to, and tired enough of suffering. The suffering I've been going through has been immense, and tired of just the merry-go-round of suffering and of believing this story that I have all these problems and that I'm at fault, and that I'm damaged goods, eternally damaged goods, and that God hates me. Yeah, God hates me, and so I need to hate myself. I was humble enough to just say, yeah, I need to start at square one here, like I've never done this lesson before. And as I went within and I asked Spirit to show me the problem. What is the problem? I don't know. What is the problem? I was given this image and was asked to imagine God and His creation. Imagine God's love, eternal, everlasting. It's everything I want. It's peace, it's comfort, it's joy, it's warmth, it's complete acceptance. It's bliss that I can't even comprehend. And it looked like the sun. This huge ball of light. He said, imagine that. That's God's love. I looked at it, and all of a sudden, pop! This spark, this tiny, tiny little light, popped out of it and off into space. And it was far away from this ball of light that I was told was God's love. And I was like, okay, that's the separation. That's me. That's who I think I am. I think I'm this little ember that is so covered over in guilt and darkness and shame that I can't even see the light. So I left as this little spark of light, and I'm floating out there, and I'm far away, and there was a sense of being lost in the darkness, this dark, black space. And now there's this distance. So it was an experience of being very alone and having almost completely forgotten the light that I came from, that I actually was. I left as a piece of light, and I'm covered over in darkness. I'm separate. God is way the heck over there. The love, the light that I came from is way far away, off in the distance. And I'm over here floating by myself, alone, cold. But I wasn't kicked out. I left on my own. I separated from a choice I made. So I just kind of sat with this image and sat with this feeling of separateness, of being outside of where I came from. It's like, okay, Show me more. What is the problem? What is the problem, Spirit? Show me the problem. Help me understand this. What are you showing me? And then I imagine immediately as this like sense of the human condition came in, alone. It's dark. I'm by myself. I'm not loved now anymore. The ego really started interpreting this whole thing, and I immediately wanted to go back. I want to go back into that ball of light. I want to go back to God, back to where I came from, where that spark flew out of. I want to go back in. And then this fear came in. And this ball of light, I started to approach it, and I became more and more frightened. I became very scared of approaching the source that I had just come from. And I realized that there was a lot of interpretation around that. I was interpreting that the ball of light wouldn't want me back. Why would it want me back? I left it. I abandoned God. I abandoned my home. I decided, I'm out of here. I'm going to go check out this other thing. I'm going to go see what it's like to be by myself. And there's this guilt. There's this shame. There's a fear. I'm not welcome back. How can I go back? I left. How could I be welcomed from where I left? I wasn't kicked out by God. I said, later, I'm out of here, and I popped out, and I found very quickly that I wasn't happy there. I wanted to go back home, where I came from, back to that oneness, back to that love, that all-encompassing, engulfing love. And so I went through this experience of being this little ball of light covered over with all this guilt and darkness and shame. And it's like, okay, I'm approaching the light, but I'm just scared because I think this is real. This is very real for me. And I've had what seems to be a very real separate experience. So what? Okay. So the problem is that separation. Okay, that was in the lesson. Okay, I'm experiencing it now. I've got a good visual. Okay. What's the solution? What's the solution, Spirit? And these questions started to arise about, well, if this is all happening in my mind, okay, if the world of time and space truly is an illusion, and it truly is a making of my unconscious mind, it's evidence of the power of my mind and the contents of my mind, the things that I believe are reflected out in the world in various forms. If this is all happening in the mind, well, what's happening? And I was assured that I don't understand what's going on, and that this visualization is a representation. I was told, we're trying to reach you where you're at. God's love is not a globe. It's not a planet. It's not the sun that has edges to it. Okay? You believe what you were just shown. You believe the problem. You believe that you separated. You believe that you left. That you really did leave. And that now this experience of being alone and separate outside of eternity is real. You believe that that's the problem. So you need to be clear about the problem. The problem is separation, but it's your belief in it. It didn't actually occur. And so I got confused, and I talked to Spirit more about that. I'm like, okay, what's the solution? And he said, God's love is bigger. And instead of there being a ball of light, all of a sudden it just went flat, and it just went in all directions at once. like an expanse on a beach, on a sandy beach. That's where I was taken to next. I'm on a sandy beach. I am a bit of sand on a beach that extends out. So if you think of a beach, if I think of sand, like you can't count the sand. It's like infinity. You can't. It's not fathomable. It goes on and on and on and on, this expanse of beach and this amount of sand. And so I was told that the oneness of God, you don't comprehend it anymore because you've buried this idea. It's covered over. The light is covered over by your own beliefs and your own fears. So the answer, the solution to your belief in separation is not believing it anymore, is forgiving it. It's oneness. The oneness that you feel when you're aligned with God within, that is a solution. Oneness made it impossible for me to separate. Oneness didn't allow it. There's nothing outside of it. And again, I don't understand that. So that was made clear to me today. I don't understand oneness. And that's why I get confused. Because I can only think in separate terms. I can only think of I'm over here and that's out there and this is over there and you're over there and things come and go and shift and change and die and born and all that stuff. That's still what I understand best. So Spirit's trying to reach me here and trying to tell me what you think happened and what you think caused so much pain and you think you did abandon God and how could he possibly welcome you back, and that's the conflict, that's the problem behind all the problems in your life, is that you feel horrible about yourself and you hate that you wanted to separate from him. That's not true. It's just the interpretation that you have chosen. It's not real. You didn't actually separate. You are still one. But the power of your mind is so unfathomable. Again, I don't understand how powerful my mind is. I'm too busy telling myself I'm stupid and covering over my power with a bunch of denial and a bunch of story about how worthless I am. My mind is so powerful that if I believe I'm guilty, then I experience guilt. If I believe that I'm worthless, I am worthless. If I believe that God hates me and I tell myself that, then I believe it. But I was assured without question that this is not the case. This is not the case. It's just my beliefs that need to be undone around that. I never left. And it was explained to me that how could something that is eternal and never ends and has no edges, it has no beginning and no ending, how could it possibly separate into multiple pieces? There isn't part of it to be pulled out of it. Now, this is also what quantum physics is helping us understand. Quantum physics is supporting the teaching that, of course, doesn't need any support, but for me it does. It's helpful for me to see that even in the science community, the nature of connectivity is being proven. You can't pull apart what is connected. And you can try, but it doesn't work. It doesn't work. You can't pull apart one. If it's one, then it's one, then it's one, then it's one, and it's always one. You can't chop it up. You can't pull it apart, no matter how powerful I think my mind is. I can't do it, and it hasn't happened. This is a solution. Accepting this for myself is a solution to every problem I have. Why do problems make me feel unsafe? Because I feel I have to find the answer. Because I think I'm this helpless, weak person in this world, and I have to make this world work, and I have to figure it out, or I'm in danger. I'm going to look bad. I'm going to feel bad. And I'm not safe at home. I'm in this world, and I have to make it work out somehow. And I'm a body, and I'm in danger. If I don't figure out how to pay my bills, they're going to come get me. and I'm going to look bad. What's going to come and get me if I haven't separated from God? How could I possibly be threatened if this body is not my home? If this body is part of an illusion, how could I possibly be at risk? How could I really have a problem at all? And so the many problems get collapsed down into one problem. One problem can have one solution, and it does. And I just thank the Holy Spirit for reaching me today with this beautiful visual, this experience of being a piece of sand on the beach. And I questioned that too. I questioned Spirit about that. I'm like, okay, so if this is the solution, if I imagine myself, this is a beautiful meditation to do for yourself, and I'm happy to join with you to do it together. It's really powerful. If I imagine myself as a single piece of sand on a beach, imagine it just the beach goes on forever. You can't see the end of it, the beginning of it. You're just there on the beach, on the shore of an ocean. I make myself really small in my mind, and I imagine myself as a grain of sand. So I'm on the beach. If I imagine myself as being separate from all the other pieces of sand, I am just one piece of sand. I'm just one separate piece of sand. Not connected to anything. I'm just on the beach. I'm a single, alone, separate piece of sand. It is not a good feeling. It feels utterly alone and cut off from anything that's joyful or inspiring. But if I imagine myself as a piece of sand, as part of the beach, I am a member, I am an equal participant on that beach. I make up the beach. As a piece of sand, I am the beach. I'm the beach, and it goes out and out and out with all the other little particles all around me. Together, we are the one beach. There is a feeling of expansion, of wholeness, of completion when I view myself in this way. And that's what Spirit showed me. That's it. That's what we're going for. And I questioned it, as I just mentioned. I'm like, yeah, but all the pieces of sand are individual little pieces. He's like, yeah. You don't understand oneness. Again, you don't understand oneness. Is it helpful? I'm like, yeah, that feels really good. Stick with that. Don't go farther than you think you need to. Don't go farther and try to get it all. Don't do that. Stick with me. So I'm very grateful for that as well. It's very helpful. I don't need to sit here but the Course says that there aren't separate things, and if the problem is separation, then being a piece of sand isn't helpful. Okay, fine. Then I'm arguing with the guidance that Spirit is trying to give me. So let's set that aside. It's helpful. For where I'm at today, it's helpful. It's just a symbol. Jesus is always using symbols to help us. So it's another really important thing that's coming in for me today. Just let him use the symbols. I made them up to justify my separation belief and to make it seem like God rejected me when that's definitely not the case. And he needs to come in and reinterpret all this stuff. He needs to use it all in a way that I can understand. He doesn't need to understand anything. There's nobody else out there that needs to understand anything. There's nobody else that needs to get it. I need to get it. But I am in nursery school here. I am in preschool. I still, after years of studying the Course and blah, 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 in minister training, I still need help on a basic fundamental level. I need help being reminded, what is the problem? What is the solution? Okay, so now I can understand. Okay, I'm on the beach. I'm part of an expanse that goes on into eternity, and I don't understand eternity. So this is very helpful for me to feel connected and to be told that my belief in separation is the problem. And there is a solution. And I'm going to be shown the solution. I don't have to believe my thoughts. I don't have to believe what isn't true. And I can see how fear has just piled on top of itself over and over and over with these overlays over the truth, over the simple solution, the simple problem, the simple solution. And my job is to continue to let him peel the layers off, let this inner guidance show me that it's safe for me to go home. It's safe to let go of this false self, this ego identity. It's safe to let go of pride and trying to hold it all together. It's safe to let it all fall apart. And the one problem and the one solution is why. It's very simple. It's not complicated. But I do need to let go of what I've been holding on to. But I feel really willing and ready to do that today. So I'm so grateful to be able to share this with you. I feel lifted up by just really going deeper with this and deeper into humility and the I don't know mind. I know nothing mind is where it's at for me today, and I hope to stay there. I pray that I have the courage and the strength of God within me. That I can really let Spirit take charge today for the rest of the day and let this lesson just speak to me. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. Yeah. And I'd love to hear your comments. If you'd like to share about this, if you'd like to join about the lessons or about anything else, I would love to join with you and connect and share more and lighten up this journey. Lighten up this journey. It doesn't have to be so laboring. It doesn't have to be so intense. It doesn't have to be so difficult. We can make this simple by letting Spirit show us how simple it can be. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for you and this opportunity today. And I just love you and bless you. Thank you so much for joining. Until next time.